Okay, so this evening we're going to talk about the quadratic formula, and we can use the quadratic formula to solve quadratic equations when factoring won't work, square roots won't work, completing the square is not really the best way that we like to solve as it is, so we need to come up with another method, and this method is always going to work. So the quadratic formula states that x is equal, or the solutions are equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now those values are really important, the a value, the b value, and the c value. And we know, when we look at it, that this here is the standard form of a quadratic equation. In the form ax squared plus bx plus c. We need to put it into standard form before we use the quadratic formula. And what we're going to do is we're going to label our a values, label our b values, and label our c values, and then use them to solve the formula. Take a second and write down the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. This is something that's given to you, and you'll always have access to it, but it's good just to have it with you. So let's jump right in. Let's use it. Here, let's label our a value, our b value, and our c value. A, b, and c. 2, 3, and negative 5. Recall that the formula states x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now this is very much just computational, so it's going to take putting some paper and pencil together and doing a little bit of work. But we know our b value is 3, so let's go ahead and plug in. X equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 3 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 5. All over 2 times 2. Now, we could solve this by trying to multiply 2 times negative 5, end up with negative 10, try to find the factors of negative 10. That would add to positive 3. And I think that we would be successful, excuse me. But I just want to give us another method that we can use to solve. So let's go ahead and evaluate this. X is equal to negative 3 plus or minus. There's that plus or minus that we talked about with completing the square that's so important. It gives us 2 answers, and we know that most of the times we're going to have 2 answers. The square root, 9. Negative 4 times 2 times negative 5. Well, that's going to give me positive 40 all over 4. Or negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 49 all over 4. Well, I got 2 solutions here. I got a plus 40 square root of 49 and a minus square root of 49. So let's take it and do it twice. The square root of 49 we know is 7 over 4, or negative 3 minus 7 over 4. Negative 3 positive 7 gives me 4 over 4, or 1. Negative 3 negative 7 is negative 10 over 4. And so we get a solution of 1 comma negative 5 over 2. And that's it. It's all about using this formula. What's the problem here? It's not in standard form. We need to take this equation and put it into standard form. So let's move this 2x to the other side. So we set it equal to 0. 0 equals x squared minus 2x minus 4. Now that I've got it in standard form, let's label our a, our b, and our c values. A is equal to 1, b is equal to negative 2, c is equal to negative 4. We've got our formula up here in the right-hand corner. Let's go ahead and plug it in. Be careful with your negative signs here. It says negative b, but I've got negative 2 for my b value. So minus negative 2, I like to use parentheses, you know that, plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 4. All over 2 times 1. Negative and negative gives me 2 plus or minus the square root of 4. Well, negative 4 times 1 times negative 4 is plus 16 all over 2. Or 2 plus or minus the square root of 20 over 2. Now, how can I clean up the square root of 20? Well, I know I can write it as the square root of 4 times the square root of 5. Or 2 plus or minus 2 square roots of 5 all over 2. Yes, these guys here are both joined by addition and subtraction, but they're both being divided by 2, so I can clean up that whole thing. 2 divided by 2 gives me 1 plus or minus. 2 divided by 2 is still 1, and it's 1 what? But 1 square root of 5. Not a pretty number, but a value nonetheless. So, when should we use the quadratic equation? Would we use it here? Well, first we got to put it into standard form, so we'll subtract 14 from both sides. Now, how would you want to solve this? You could use the quadratic equation if you wanted, or, like most of us I think, we'd probably just factor and say x is equal to, or x plus 7 times x minus 2 equals 0, or x plus 7 equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0. So take a few minutes over the weekend. I want you guys to complete just the evens on the worksheet that you got along with this. But again, we're going to use x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. This is the quadratic equation. Good luck.